Today, I'm gonna show you how to make Chinese dumplings. We're gonna walk you through the whole process, starting from the dough, to the filling, to the shaping, and finally the cooking. It's got this amazing, succulent pork, shrimp, cabbage filling. They're delicious. These are the best Chinese dumplings you'll ever make. Why buy frozen dumplings when you can make them at home? Whether you like them boiled, steamed, or pan-fried, making dumplings at home offers a world of customization. When it comes to making dumplings from scratch, starts with the dough itself. There's a bit of a tenderness, a freshness, a unique texture to homemade dumpling dough. And the experience of actually like shaping and pleating is totally different versus the store-boughts are more sort of rigid, more starchy. When it comes to mixing our dough, it's very simple: flour, water, salt. But we got to be mindful of the composition and the process. Here we're using a blend of flours. Now cake flour is milled very, very finely. Micron size gets the texture closer to what you would get with like a northern Chinese flour. And now we've got a little bit of salt. I'm just gonna whisk this to get it incorporated. That's ready to go. We need to hydrate it and mix it. So when it comes to hydrating dough, there's like generally two strategies. There's a cold water dough or a hot water dough. Cold water dough is self-explanatory. It produces a very stiff dough in comparison to a hot water dough. The gluten potential is maximized because you're not limiting gluten content. On the flip side, you've got hot water doughs, which are very unique to Chinese cooking. The basic premise is that you want to scald the flour slightly to partially gelatinize some of the starch. And what that does is it makes a really supple dough, a really smooth dough. It's easier to work up front, so you don't have to wait around for the dough to relax. It also limits the gluten formation slightly, so you end up with a bit more of a tender eating texture overall. And it's one we'll use here. We've got our flour, and then we are gonna pull over some boiling water. And I'm gonna measure out of water by weight of the flour, about 50%. And then we're gonna go straight in. And so off the bat, some of this starch is starting to gelatinize instantly because it's super hot. And that's a good sign. That was what we're looking for. And I know you can't smell things, but to me, it smells like cooked starch already. Pretty much what I'm looking for. We've got this very shaggy, sort of pebbly texture. And then I'm gonna come in with my hand and knead in the bowl. It's looking to get everything incorporated. I don't need a super smooth dough ball at this point because we're gonna let this rest for a little bit and then knead it again. At this point, it's pretty well incorporated. There are a couple pockets of dry flour. I'm just gonna knead that through, but it's still gonna be kind of rough. This is pretty well incorporated. We're gonna cover this, let it rest for about 15 minutes, come back and knead it again. So it's been 15 minutes, still rough. We're just gonna knead this through and it should smooth out considerably. So that's the advantage of using a hot water dough. Things get very pliable and supple very quickly. At this point, we are going to let this really rest because the gluten needs to develop more fully over time and the starches need to hydrate a little bit more. Super rested, very smooth. It's not a lot of pushback or snapback, if you will, and that's really because of the extended rest. So we're now ready to divide and roll out our dough, then punch it out, then we'll have our wrappers. I like using a pasta roller because it gives you a really consistent result. Traditionally, people have used wooden dowels, but I found that a pasta roller is really fast, it's really consistent. It's also a little more user-friendly, it doesn't require as much practice. For 600-gram portion, dividing in two works. Got a little bit of flour on the board. Just press this out. And for now, I'm gonna roll this out. I'm looking for a roughly 7 by 7 square. Some people, when they're rolling out pasta, for instance, they need super square sheets. But for us, we're just punching things out This dough is really nice. It's not fighting back too much. And I'm being sure to flour between rolling, especially as I'm getting thinner, because I don't want it to catch on the rollers at all. I have this on the 0 setting, giving it a couple passes. And I'm gonna work up to the 5 setting here. I'm at 39. I can roll with that. As far as punching out goes, you just wanna be sure to mark out and go as close as possible, so you're not really wasting too much dough. And that's our excess. They're pretty thin. They're not as thin as the store-bought wrappers. We're really going for like a northern Chinese style, which is a little bit thicker, like a hair thicker. At this point, we want to stack them, and then we can get to filling and shaping our dumplings. When it comes to making dumplings, you can pick any kind of filling. Today, we're gonna roll with a pork, shrimp, and cabbage filling. Cabbage in general represents a sort of bulking agent. If we were to just mix the meats together, it might get a little bit too bouncy. Unlike round green cabbage, it's a little bit more crispy in texture, and so I like it for this application. We're just starting with some nice chopped cabbage, add some salt. And the purpose of salting the cabbage is to draw out extra moisture. Or to just fold in this cabbage without salting it, over time, all of that water would stay in the filling, and you'd end up with a too mushy filling, basically. And I'm looking for a sort of wet texture that indicates the salt is well distributed. At this point, we're gonna transfer this out to a cheesecloth strainer setup. And this is to ensure that we can squeeze out as much liquid as possible. And we're just gonna let this hang out for about 15 minutes. And that gives enough time for the salt to do its work and draw out more moisture, more liquid. And you'd be surprised how much water actually comes out of this amount of cabbage. Don't gotta hulk out on it, and that's pretty good. We're gonna transfer this. Let's measure out about 45 grams of this cabbage water. Super appetizing, I know. And fold it back into our meat mixture. It's gonna provide a little bit of insurance against overcooking the filling, so it won't get too bouncy. It's also really salty, so it helps with the seasoning as well. On top of that, we're adding a little bit of cornstarch, and that's gonna bind the water a little bit better to the filling so that it doesn't sort of leak out or run out when we bite into it. And just give it a nice stir. This goes straight into our mixing bowl, and we will continue building our filling. When it comes to making this filling, it's really a dump and mix. So let's start with our big stuff. Got some ground pork here, diced shrimp, scallions, and now we go in with our seasonings and aromatics. We've got some grated ginger, some grated garlic, some toasted sesame oil, salt. Not too much because we have some salt from the cabbage water in there as well. A healthy dose of ground white pepper, chicken bouillon powder. Finally, this is melted lard. So the combination of pork fat, shrimp, is super common in Chinese cooking. You could also use like chopped up back fat if you're really hardcore. And then we're just gonna let this run. Start on low, and then we'll crank it up to high. So I'm gonna stop here. We're not done yet, but I just wanna show you the texture first. We're using a paddle, and it mimics the traditional idea of stirring in one direction. So a lot of Chinese cooks will talk about one directional stirring, developing the mixture in the correct way. What I'm really looking for is some stickiness to the mixture and even some emulsification. So this is starting to get to the sticky texture, but we're gonna take this even further. I'm gonna let this run for about a minute, 2 minutes at the most. And I can see that the mixture is getting a little bit more pale and a lot more sticky, even after like 30 seconds of paddling. And let's check out this final texture. I just went in straight with a spatula and came up with a bunch of sticky meat filling. And that's really great. That's what I'm looking for. It's cohesive, but it's still gonna be like tender, not like super bouncy. We are ready to fill and shape our dumplings. So as far as shaping overall as a procedure goes, you just want to encase the filling, make sure it doesn't leak out. But also pleating influences the overall shape, whether it's like a crescent, for instance, like a moon shape, or if it's more flat, then you might get more browning and crisping when you want to like pan-sear it, for instance. Conversely, if you go with like a really flat half moon shape, it might be more amenable to like boiling or steaming for a more delicate texture. But here we have a variety of options. I'm gonna show you one right now. This is how you generally wanna set it up. So I've got my filling here, my wrappers, I've got a damp towel, I've got a little bit of water. If it's your first time, I recommend a scale. And then finally have a landing spot. I'm gonna keep this damp towel on top. I like to use a butter knife. For a really sticky, porky filling like this, around 18 grams is ideal in most cases. I'm just gonna flatten it out. I'll take a tiny bit of water, not a lot. Fold it like a taco, just like that. At this point, I'm gonna start pleating. So I'll go across and make 4 pleats starting from the middle. Sometimes the end can be a little bit stubborn. Using as little water as possible to get things to stick. And then we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. So just pinch, pinch, pinch. I really just want to be mindful of crimping these edges to seal. I don't want any points of failure really, especially if I'm going to do something like boiling. But for this recipe, we're just pan searing. That's good to go. So we're on to pan frying our dumplings. For this setup, we just want a non-stick pan, a lid, some oil, a little bit of water. For this method in particular, I actually like to start in a cold pan. So I'll drop the oil in. The benefit of starting in a cold pan is you can really take your time to arrange things nicely. Also, everything cooks at a little bit more of the same rate. Don't have to be perfect about arranging. I just want to space them out relatively evenly. So we'll start this off at about a medium. Here it is 340 degrees. This will take a few minutes to come up to temperature. And as that happens, we're looking for just a little bit of browning to occur at the bottom, just to set that crust. But we're not looking for like aggressive browning. If I have extra to cook, covering the rest so that they don't dry out really. One of the benefits of pan frying is that it gives you 2 textures, a crispy bottom, but also a tender, sort of chewy top. And it's admittedly pretty low tech. Parts of this are starting to brown, and that's great. It's been about 3 minutes. At this point, I'm going to add some water, and then we'll just cover it. I'm gonna lower the temperature down just a hair. So at around 300, I'm just looking for some steam action. And that's gonna cook the rest of the wrapper through. If we didn't steam things, it wouldn't be cooked through. And the bottom would be the only thing that's really crisped. So we're coming up on about a minute left. I'm noticing less steam, which indicates to me that less water is in the pan. All right, let's see what we got here. Notice that these dumplings have actually puffed up a little bit and the wrappers are a little more translucent. That means the steam has done its work. Right now, I'm just going to bump up the temperature again. And the goal here is to really evaporate all that water. And second is also to crisp up the bottom. I'm just giving a little shake to limit the amount of sputtering that's going on. Give a little check every so often, and I'll be pulling these dumplings once they're nice and browned and crispy on the bottom. That would be a pretty good example of what you're looking for. Pretty well browned, not burnt. And at this point, we can start plating these up. As I'm doing this, I'm just being mindful to transfer it crispy side up, and that just makes sure that the bottom stays crispy. If I were to transfer it bottom side down, it might sog out a little bit. Not the end of the world, but you've worked pretty hard to develop this crust at the bottom. So it's nice to just transfer them in that orientation. All right, now onto the sauce. Now, if you're a purist, if you are from like northern China, oftentimes there's no sauce that goes with your dumpling. People really want to savor the texture of the wrapper and the flavor of the filling. So that takes precedence over anything else. But it's still common to have a sauce with your dumplings. And you've got all sorts of options. Very common, at minimum, is to have some kind of vinegar, some kind of soy sauce, or chili oil. You can also have things like aromatics, like ginger or garlic. But for now, we're making a very all-purpose sauce that encapsulates some of these flavors. We're gonna start with some light soy sauce, some dark soy sauce, a little bit of Sichuan chili flake, toasted sesame oil, a little bit of sugar, Chinese black vinegar. Lastly, we have a little bit of water, and then we're gonna whisk. So I'm just looking for the sugar to get dissolved for the most part. Of course, if I wanted to get fancier, I could add some like grated ginger, grated garlic. But as I said, this is a very, very simple sauce. And that's it. We're just gonna transfer this out. And that's your dipping sauce. I just spent hours making dumplings from scratch. I'm gonna dunk this in, just get some of that sauce. Really, really good. The filling is super savory, and that wrapper, the dough is tender and yielding, but just chewy. And it all eats like one cohesive item. So it's not just dumpling dough and meat, it's one eating experience. That's one of the advantages of making your own dough and your own filling at home. You can really customize it, dial in the textures. So that's how you make dumplings at home. Bring your friends into it, bring your family into it. If you have a favorite filling or a favorite shaping, let me know in the comments. Get after it.
Subscribe to our channel and visit ChefSteps.com for more tips, recipes, guides, and tools to help you level up in the kitchen.